there! Thanks for your understanding and patience. I hope you're all doing fine, but finally we're here. 6th episode about the GSXR 600K8 restoration series. Today we are going to tackle the cosmetic issues. So we are going to fix scratches on the fairings, bad repair on the fairings, and something that made me really became crazy, some chips on the fuel tank. All the previous episodes are in a playlist, a link is in the description, and before continuing, please consider to subscribe to the channel and activate the bell so you will not miss notification for the upcoming videos. But now let's stop to talk and let's start to work. So let's remove this fairing that is secured by ball Allen key here, Allen key here, over here. I think there is something also under tray here, and as well here, and maybe that's it. So let's start to remove them. There is one more. Let me show you. So under here, under the middle, there is this one. I don't think this is genuine, but nevertheless, let's remove it. So as usual are this one. So with a screwdriver you just have to gently pull this up and then you can remove it entirely. Just few more pins are securing the fairing to the bike. So we have this one, this one, this one, and then this one, that is the one that is connected here. On the opposite side is same but different. So the only difference in our case is that we have this frame slider that is installed by having a hole on the fairing. So there are different versions of this one. Some of them do not need to make the hole on the fairing, but in our case this was made. So we have to remove this one as well to remove the fairing. And if you wonder why I'm reinstalling it, it's because this bolt is in fact an engine mount. And frankly speaking, before removing this one, in principle you are expected also to untie this one. So official Suzuki procedure is to first untie this one and then you can release this one. But to analyze the damage, let's start from the fairings, the side ones, and looking really carefully we can see that here we have a very light damage, so there are few scratches over here, but I'm strongly believing that with some polishing we can limit them. Honestly speaking, I have never observed them while the fairing were installed on the bike. And here there is something that I would like to fix, because this was made by the previous owner, so you can clearly see that this part was painted, and you see the color is not gloss, is not matching, and I hope you can see even the putty was not made very well, and there is also some overspray over here, and here we can see there is missing a bit of color. So this is something we need to fix. And on the other one, it was perfect when my wife bought the bike, but then the bike crashed from the stand, so we have these scratches here, very light scratches here that I believe we can fix with a bit of polish. And here, I hope you can see it, there is a small dent, so probably when the bike pushed here because it was not having installed the protection for the body, so there is a small dent here. So this is what we are going to fix. On the other area that we are going to fix is the fuel tank. As you can see here, there are quite many chips on this area. Don't ask me how the previous owner made them, I don't know. Yesterday, while I was painting it, I figured out that maybe the girlfriend of the first owner was wearing a ring and she has damaged the fuel tank with the ring. That's the only thing that came to my mind. Anyway, we have to fix these chips, and unfortunately we have also a new damage here. We have this reed here that I think was made by my son, but nevertheless we are going to fix it. Fix this fairing that is having this damage here and this overspray here. I plan to dismount the fairing, because if we turn it upside down, you can see that the blue part is separate part with the white one. So I can see that there are some screws here and here, then some plastic clips. So my idea is to remove the blue part so we can definitely clean it up from the overspray and bring it back to his original shape, and at the same time we can make a better job on the white one. On this other one, I don't think could be needed to remove it, but as we have to paint this part, I think will be best if we remove it so we don't have any eventually line made with the tape. So plan is to dismount both of them. Let's remove the 3 screws and the plastic interlocking that are keeping connected the blue part with the white one. So now you can clearly see that this part is a bit down. So I have to admit that if I just scratch and sand this part and let's say smooth a bit this edge, because this is smooth and this is very sharp, maybe nobody is going to notice this defect. But I don't know, I don't like this kind of approaches, so my plan is to sand this part. Unfortunately we have to remove also this Yoshimura sticker, so we have to sand all this part because this is bad paint. So we have to sand all this part. We will use some filler to make some putty here and to remake the perfect shape. And for doing that we are using a specific filler for plastic because it must be elastic. Otherwise, with the changes of the temperatures, so by heating, for example, by the sun or by the engine, if the two materials are not having the same elasticity coefficient, the other one is going to crack. So we have to use a special filler for that. And then once we have sanded all this part, as I'm not planning to paint the entire white part, I need to sand a bit more. So put a coat here, sand a bit more, and then use this area to spray a bit, make a bit of overspray to smooth the paint, and then with some polish you will not notice at all that this part has been resprayed. So first thing first, let's start to sand this part, but we have also to do the same job on the other fairing first. To fix the dent, we have just applied some heat on the fairing, and then with the use of the hands we have made it back to the original shape. We use the heat also to remove the sticker, but more you dig, more you find. So we remove the sticker and we can see that this scratch over here was continuing under the sticker, so was used the sticker to cover partially it. So it was very good move to remove everything and fix it properly. As our intention is just to remove the all new paint, the concept is now to use just a 240K paper, and I'm use always a support like this one, because if you do it by hand like that, your finger will push not constantly on the surface, and the result will be that you will have a waved surface. So much better to use a support to avoid this to happen. Alright, so this is how we ended up the initial preparation. So we remove all the glossy part and we are ready for the putty. So let's put here some catalyst. So it's 2%, so I assume it would be something like that. And then you have to mix them very well. Then to apply this filler, you have typically if I may say time to apply that is about 4 or 5 minutes, depend of course on the temperature. Now I think it's very well mixed, so we take just a bit of filler and we put it here. And don't forget the golden rule, less is more. Let's try to always apply as less putty as you can. Meanwhile that we wait the putty to get dry, and it takes around 30 minutes before we can sand it. Now we can tackle this overspray here. So basically we can try to polish it, but I believe that the easiest way is to, as I assume the paint that was used was a very cheap one, so most probably a really cheap can, I think that if I'm going to use some acetone, it will be sufficient to remove all the overspray and I will not damage nothing. And I was right. In really less than a minute the overspray was gone. I believe that looking at me that I'm sanding a piece of fairing is quite boring, so I made it out of the camera, and this is the area that we try to rebuild. So I don't know if it's visible for you and how much well it can be visible. Anyhow, we have raised up this part that was below. Of course it's not perfect and we cannot expect to be perfect on the first run, but I have to say that I'm pretty happy, because these edges that were very let's say out from the standard, they were very sharp. I mean, now we are almost there. So a bit more putty on this area, because you see it's missing of course, and I have to say we are almost there. I think even if you touch it, It's almost there. Once again, let's go for some sanding before getting ready to the paint. So here we are, and I hope you can see that now the shape is again a round shape. So now it's exactly or very close to how it was in the origin. And yeah, frankly speaking, from here you can see how much putty we had to apply. So this black color is the original plastic from the fairing, and here you can see we have applied, I've say, couple of millimeters of putty because that part was scratched. Now we have achieved again to have the right shape of the fairing. So alright, so before starting the paint job, we have to one more degrees the surface that we need to paint. And the next step is to avoid to overspray. So in this case, I think we are going to use this area, if I may say, as a cutting edge. So some theory before starting to paint. Basically, we are going to use a primer coat, and this is very important because on this area, you see, we have not anymore the paint. So we need to have something that link the plastic with the new paint, and this is the primer. And there are several types of them. In our case, we have to use a specific one for plastic. And when you use these cans, you see there are different size of needles, and typically when you see this square one, it has a really large area. This is perfectly for painting larger surfaces, but you can consider to use other kind of them. So I hope you can see now. So there are different types that are having a different spray area, and this is the distance for each one. So larger spray area doesn't mean necessarily that you have to stay far off from this one. So this is 8 centimeters, 10 centimeters of distance from the spray. Anyway, a golden rule, in my opinion, is that more or less, if you have to spray, you can consider to be more or less on this distance. It will not be too much wrong as a starting paint. The other thing, the first spray you will see, I will put a really light overlay. I will not even cover entirely, because this makes much easier to avoid problem with the paint later on. So first layer really light, wait few minutes. Typically it's written on the instruction of the paint how much you have to wait, and that is, let's say, 5 minutes for the first overlay, and then I would say between one layer and the other, typically you have to wait, let me say, 10-15 minutes more or less. But let's start to do it. 5 minutes have passed, let's cover it. Then it was time to apply the coat. And if you want to avoid to get drop to fill in the area, you should start to spray from outside the area of painting. So if I have to start to paint here, I start to push when I am here. and that we made before. First layer, really light. And now we can try to do the proper paint. Okay, now that it is dry, we can apply the second and final base coat that is expected to be a wet one. So it means that we have to cover the entire surface, and to get the best result as we can, I will start to paint these areas, these sides, and then I will paint the upper part. So in that way, when I do some overspray, it falls down on the wet paint and it will attach much better than vice versa. So as the overspray goes from top to down, we will start to paint lower part first and then the upper part. Let's make it. And this is the final result after we applied also the clear coat. So we added the glossy finisher, and as you can see, I have removed partially the cover because we had to smooth the clear coat on the paint, on the original paint, and then we just need to polish it. As the result was pretty good, I've just sanded a bit with a 5000 K and then apply by hand some polishing. And this is the final result. I have to admit that it was quite a long that I was not painting some fairings, but I'm really happy about the end result. I mean, it's rather perfect considering that it was homemade. But now let's move over to the next step. These very unaesthetic chips over here, to fix them, as it's not my intention to repaint the entire fuel tank, I would like to test another solution that is applying using this corrector. So we are having, if I understood correctly, on one side a sort of pen, and we can use the base color to fill this up, and then we have this pearl that have to be applied later to secure that the color match is achieved. But the first thing first is to really, let's say, degrease very well the surface, and let's start to do this. As usual, we will learn together. This is my first time, and I think that the key is first shake it quite well. We have two options. So or we use this brush, or as alternative, we can use this pencil tip that I think is my favorite option right now. So I admit that you have to shake it really a while. I think I shake it for almost 5 minutes. I was wrong. Using the pen was a disaster. So I had to restart and redo it several times before figuring out which was the, if I may say, best technique to be used. I have to say that once more I've deleted all the job that I made and I restarted back, and I figured it out compared to what is the result here, not finished but almost, that best thing is to use the brush, not the pen, and put
as less color as you can, as much precise as you can. This is just the coat. Now it's very late, I have to say, so I'm planning to go to sleep, and tomorrow we will apply some per layer. But on this other side I've applied already one more layer, and you can see this in particular, I have to say, is almost invisible. So okay, this is need to be polished, of course, but it's much better than any other technique that I tried. And looking on the back, this was the part that I mentioned that I painted. It was this point here was completely black, and as you can see, with 3 layers of pearl, is, I have to say, perfectly matching color. Of course also this one needs to be polished, but and same is getting here, so we are almost there with the color. So I do expect that with some polishing we will be on the right track. What I did, I've sanded a bit with the K2000 the surface to make more flat the border of the edges, and the biggest challenge that I was having was on the color match, because the base coat was too clear, too light, and if I was then applying the pearl second layer, I mean, it was almost impossible to cover just these very small damages. So what I decided to do, I mixed a bit of pearl and base coat together, and I applied there. Now let's wait that it will dry, and then hopefully by polishing it we will have a result that will not be perfect, because the color match is not there, that's for sure, but it will be much better than it was. Alright, so I have applied one more layer of pearl, and now I would say that the color is matching much better than before. We are getting closer and closer. Now let's reinstall all the fairings and have a look on the final result. So here we are for the final result, and hope you remember, this was the area with all the scratches, and I would say that this is just a bad memory of the scratches. Also this area was having some light scratches, now it's much better. And let's see on the other side. Clinch, clutch, click, 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 looking on the other side, the result is, I would say, very good as well. Do you remember? Here we were having the sticker Yoshimura with a bad scratch just below. This part was almost missing, it was having a bad edge, very sharp one. Now you see it's back to the original glory. What is not 100% perfect is the fuel tank. So if you look on the fuel tank, its situation is for sure improved than before, but I had to admit that this technique with the pen in my opinion, is not perfect. So you see, this is a compromise, because if I secure that the surface is very flat, then I will not have a matching color. And here the surface is not perfectly flat, but I have a almost matching color. So that was a compromise. Otherwise, I mean, better than before, it's protected from any possible future rust, whatever. So it works. But frankly speaking, I spent a lot of time to do this, and the result is not so good. Of course, if I go here, it's pretty okay, I mean, compared with before. But anyhow, I would say that if you need to do a fix like that one, frankly speaking, it's much easier to repaint the fuel tank. So, but if you replace the fuel tank, be sure that you're using professional paint, a big component one. Otherwise, with the gasoline, there is a risk that you damage your job. So be careful on that. However, this pen corrector is not absolutely bad. So on this small spot here, it was, let's say the paint was not damaged, but it was consumed. So it became black, and I made the correction with the pen. And you see, in places like this one, the result is absolutely good one. So I'm not saying that using this pen is bad, but it do not fit to all the jobs.
So, done. Also, this episode has turned to the end. I hope you have enjoyed this video, watching this video. If so, please consider to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel, because we have one more episode about the GSXR. So we still have to replace the chain before putting the bike on sale. Meanwhile, take care, stay tuned, and see next week, hopefully, for a new video on the GSXR. And very soon we will start some new series that I hope you will love it. So take care once more. Ciao.